Hi everyone, we are back with Mr. Rajan Lal. The book, I Did It My Way, is a massive success. A lot of things after that are still to come. The book gave us a preview of what an amazing life this person had and still continues to have. So there were a lot of aspects that were either not covered because otherwise the book would have been carried by 2 3 people. We couldn't have it more than 600 pages. 600 pages, I'll tell you, does not encompass the journey this man had. So from today onwards till the time his actually autobiography comes in a video form and we have that on some pay-per-view network, we're going to ask him a couple of things that I personally wanted to ask him, and a lot of his friends, his well-wishers, his circle wants to ask him. I don't know how is he going to respond because we have not shared these questions with him, but this is going to be a rapid fire to and fro with him, with obviously coffee. And to start with, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, Asim. How are you? This coffee is wonderful. This is a special Italian coffee which you got, and it's very delicious to start with.
So because of the questions that are going to come, I wanted you to be in the best of moods.
Totally not prepared for whatever you're going to ask. So shoot, and I will try and see if I can do justice.
Give me 5 untold stories that could not make it to the book and they are very fresh in your memory. I know you have a very sharp memory, but those are the 5, like if you had to rewrite the book, you might think about including them.
I think the untold story, word untold, is itself a story which I cannot tell. That's to start with. But yes, there's not 5, there's maybe 50.
At least 50.
At least, if not more. But these stories are something that I have been through personally with the people I was associated with or involved with. But these stories is something that you cannot put in the book for obvious reasons. And plus it's also invasion of privacy of the people.
Bedtime stories.
Yeah, these are all bedtime stories which I cannot talk about. But yes, I have had a lot of experiences and stories with the people I've been close with, associated with, friendly with, and still friendly with. But it's something that I cannot put down in the book.
Without taking names, something that will
Hopefully, if and when a documentary which is in the planning happens, maybe some of it we can show it, or we'll shoot it. And some of it are very interesting stories, some are not so interesting stories. But they're stories of love, wisdom, betrayal, and regret. And all these 4 stories, the top 4 stories are of love, betrayal, wisdom, and respect. But to tell you in short, starting with love, my experience of love has been different kinds of love. It's been a crush, it's been infatuation, it's been I would say a junoon, what we call, it's something that you're in love with so much that you get blinded by the society.
That's a superlative degree.
That's a junoon. I've been through that. I've been through the crush phase. I've been through the love phase.
Define a crush.
Crush is somebody
Your definition of crush.
Definition of crush is that the crush happens normally at a very early age in life. And this was my first crush, or what you call, which was with my drawing teacher, which I have written in the book. And she was the drawing teacher in my school, and not very old from me. She must be about 22, and I must be about 14, 15, 14. And that was my so-called Mrs. Robinson. which I had. And that crush was something that what happened, and it was a beautiful thing, because when you're not
We're not actually aiming for it.
no, it just happened. It was something that just happened. And you're in school, you're young, you don't, and then you find this lovely looking drawing teacher walking in, and you're attracted to her, and you can't tell her that you're attracted. But then she shows some signs of being attracted to you. And then it all starts. And then it starts. My brother used to write down the notes. I used to write down little notes to her, and he used to be my courier to her, and then she used to write notes and courier to me, and then it all started. But it was a very beautiful phase of my life. Of course, it was crushed later on by my father very badly, and it affected her job, and affected my back because I got thrashed for it. But it was a very, very nice feeling. And I think this lady is somewhere still alive in London somewhere. She must be over 80, 85 now. But wonderful, wonderful experience.
Have you thought of like finding out where she is?
No, I have not found out. I have no idea. I don't know. I know she's somewhere in London, and married, settled down, probably grandchildren.
Definition of crush. It's first crushed, then it's crushed, then it's thrashed.
Crushed, thrashed, and been done with. And
Moving on to love.
love is something that happened with me much later in college. And I met this lovely, lovely girl whom I fell madly in love with, to the point where I nearly was committing suicide. I was going to jump out of my window, because I got to know that she was married to another man in my absence. And I remember wearing a school tie, my college tie, and I'm standing at the window of my bedroom, ready to jump. And it was to that extent that
Did you profess your love to her?
we did profess our love to each other, but she was scared of her mother, and there was a little age difference, and I was nothing. She was belonging to a very, very rich family, and the mother obviously was looking for a suitor for her, well suited, and she found a suitor, and I was made a fool of for some time. And eventually when I went out, after that, I think she got married, and that was it. But I have a very black tongue. When I curse somebody, it comes true. And unfortunately, she met a very bad end, and she's no more here. She's passed away, but she died under very mysterious circumstances, and she was very unhappy with the marriage and whatever else. That's all I can say. But that was something that I can never forget those moments. It was not physical love. It was
More of a psychological.
no. It was more of a what do you call it? A very spiritual kind of love. It was a very spiritual kind of love. When I say spiritual, we go to the same college, and we used to look at each other, talk to each other, come back, and our meeting place was, where the lift. When you have a lift. Then the lift room with the pump upstairs in the lift. That used to be our meeting spot. We used to meet in the lift upstairs and sit and just talk. So not even holding hands, just talking.
For all of you who are living in Dubai, select high rises, because high rise buildings have the pump rooms, have the lift rooms, and unfortunately most of them are being occupied, and most of them are being surveillanced. So be very
Those times there were no surveillance cameras, thank God. But I mean, just telling you, our meeting places or whatever you call it were so unusual, to the point that she was a very good dancer and a singer. And there was a point when I used to carry the tabla behind her performance. I used to carry the tabla or carry her ghungroos with me for her to wear. I mean, I'm talking of that level of love. That level of love. That level of love. It was absolutely pure, non-physical love, which you experienced. But then, after this all passed away, then you move on in life, and then these are different phases in life. You're talking of love, crush.
So when you talk about Junoon now,
When you come to Junoon,
it starts from infatuation, or it starts from love. It has to start. It cannot start from Junoon directly.
Well, I'll tell you about
What is the transformation? What is the sweet spot where it transforms from a simple love to a Junoon?
You see, it is something, this is human psychology. This is a very interesting topic of, when you can't get something, you go for it. When you can't have it, you want it more.
You want it to.
That's unattainable. I mean, it's a feeling. I don't want to give names, but there are a lot of cases whom you know and I know, are very famous in Bollywood. Is something that you can't get, but you still have, and you want to.
You would like to exist. You would like to exist in that same.
So that same situation happened with me when it came to my marriage. When I met my wife to be, and she was studying in Nirmala Niketan. I knew of about 6 months, started going out. But that time I was in college and I was a very wild guy. I mean, every woman I met was an opportunity, and I was going very fast. And then suddenly, out of the blue, when you're leading that life of having multiple girlfriends, you feel, suddenly you meet a girl who looks very Indian, sari, buffon, those days, Sharmila Tagore look and all that. And then you go for that. This is the woman I'd like to take home to mama. And that's the time when she came into my life, and I knew her for 6 months and hardly knew her. And then the other things that went along, and then later on, it reached a point where he said, listen, you decide. Are you going to get married, or are you just fooling around? Or I'm already engaged to get married somewhere else, make up your mind. When you reach that stage and that age, when you say, no, how can you get married to somebody else when you're with me? I'm not going to let it happen. I'm going to marry you. That's the time when I had a conflict with my family. And they said, you're only 21 years old. How are you talking of getting married? You haven't even settled down. You haven't even got a job. You just finished your education. I said, no, I want to marry her. Now on the hindsight, I realized that if that situation of he giving me an ultimatum, either you marry me or I'm going back and getting married. And no, how will you do that? I'm going to marry you. That was the marry at haste and repent at leisure story.
So if the same situation is faced again, you will walk away?
But that is why I'm saying marrying at a very early stage is not a great idea. I would not recommend anybody to get married under any pressure or psychological stress to get married. But at that time, you got your ego, how can my girlfriend go to somebody else and get married? Because I already lost one. The earlier one which I talked to you, I'd already lost one. So I said, no, this time I'm not going to let her go. So I married her in spite of my family objecting, everybody. But eventually we got married. But she is a wonderful person. She was a wonderful person and still is a wonderful person. But somehow, sometimes, your intellectual, emotional and physical situations don't suit at that particular time. And that was very evident from the first day of my marriage, what happened. And nothing to blame her for it or anything. She is a wonderful, good-hearted human being. It's just that when two good people meet, sometimes the sparks don't fly. And you think they will fly, but they don't fly. But you got married for the wrong reasons. Not that I wasn't in love with her. I was in love with her and she was madly in love with me. But that sparks didn't fly because you got to know that after marriage. And then subsequently, you have children because you have a family, then you have one child. I had my first child when I was 23 and the second one after 7 years, born 6 or 7 years. But that didn't last long because there were my needs and her needs were not matching. It may be emotional, mental or physical. So that is very important to realize before you actually get hitched on to with somebody for life. That is the most important thing. That is a lesson which I learned very late in life, and I told you earlier that if you have to marry a girl, meet the mother first.
Yeah, that will give you
I told you. And
I did that. I did that.
I hadn't met her mother. And I hadn't met her mother. And that is something that I would say that to her, because ultimately the girl you marry is going to be like the mother who's brought her up. And that's what she'll turn out to be. So if the mother is good-natured, good temperament, a homemaker, and she was everything. She was a homemaker, she was everything, good-tempered, everything, but something didn't work right. And I take the blame for it because I was very impulsive and very egoistic, that it's very easy to find, to put the blame on the other party. And I did that because I found that when I went out with another person during that time, and when she got to know what that happened, and I told her to just stay put and let me take a decision, because we were very confused at that level. But unfortunately, she was very impulsive and very highly strung and emotional, and she took some steps which brought the situation where I decided to move out of the marital home, which was the biggest mistake I made in my life, was to move out, not thinking that I have 2 children. This is where I'm saying that you have to think before you leap. And I didn't think before I left, and I paid for it all my life, and I'm paying for it even today. So this is something that I have learned, that if I had to do it all over again, there was lack of communication. That lack of communication is the result which I'm paying for and being punished for even today in life. And this is something that is very necessary for everybody who is there watching, saying that, listen, you have to think what will be the consequences, not you. I was thinking of me myself, भैया मैं हूँ, मेरा ego है, मैं छोड़ दूँगा. I will just leave and quit. There are children involved, there's a family involved, there's a whole social circle involved. I was ostracized from all that when I took that step. I was ostracized from society, I was ostracized from my family and my children. Most of all my children, I couldn't even meet them. And that is the biggest regret of my life, that one step which I took has affected my whole life and their whole life. And this is something that I wanted to say and express. There's something of a lesson to be learned by everybody. And I'm speaking very openly. I can't be more clear
candid about it.
And this is exactly what it is. Now that is the result of a regret.
Sure.
That's wisdom comes
from later.
too late in life.
But sir, just to complete this subject, and my last question: what are the ingredients which makes the sparks fly?
Ingredients are very simple.
I'm sorry, I'm asking you very.
This is very interesting because
I have an answer for that. Your ingredient of a successful relationship, it doesn't start from below your waist. It starts from your brain, your head. This is all in the mind. Everything that happens or you feel or you connect with is all related to your mind, how you feel. So basically what we call a passion, what we call getting turned on, as we say, it all starts from here. If that clicks with the person you're with the spouse, it clicks, that creates whatever else rest happens. But if that is not there,
after that,
From mind.
you lose interest because
then it's just lust. It's just a physical thing. If that doesn't last, and that if you've seen it in your spouse or your partner, and it fizzles out, that means this was not working correctly. It was only a lustful and physical thing. And this is where you have to start thinking about it.
So with that, thank you, sir. And to close this chapter, as Mr. Rajan said, I also follow these 2 things. If you have to fall in love with somebody and at least see the mother, at least meet the mother, at least spend some time with the mother, and you'll see how this will turn out. And the second thing, which may or may not be possible, is to wake up that person at 5 a.m. in the morning. You'll see the actual temperament and the actual like face. What is
Something you have experienced, not me. This is something you have
Wake up
experienced.
somebody at 5 a.m. in the morning, and then you'll get to know how that person actually is physically and emotionally and mentally. With this,
5 a.m. is a little too early. Asim, you're being a little harsh on her. And 5 a.m. she's going to slap you in the face. She's going to slap you in the face at 5 a.m.
maybe if you get slapped at 5 a.m., then that is a disaster waiting to happen at 8, 9, 10, 11 as well.
Yes, yes.
With that,
That's true. I mean, you have to do these little things. But it's a very interesting topic about life and about your companion and spouse and everything. But these are facts. I mean, one has faced it, you have faced it, I have faced it. We've all faced it. But, these are very interesting portions of your life which you cannot forget and repeat. But these are the mistakes you have made. And these mistakes, we blame it on the other person. When you have a relationship or an affair outside your marriage, you blame it. I did this because she was like this. Because she was not responsive physically. She was not responsive emotionally. We couldn't talk to each other. These are the things
You're
which
right,
happen.
very right. That's a different subject.
That's an excuse we find
within ourselves to do what we are doing.
so what happens is, sir, I believe that we are in control of, we are never in control of the circumstances we will face.
No.
We are in control of our reaction to that circumstance. So if we blame others person, and you are one of the very, very, very few people that I've ever seen who wholeheartedly and without any disclaimer say, okay, this is a mistake that has been made by me.
Have you
Seen two dogs together?
Unfortunately, I have a very vivid memory of that.
male?
And female?
Yes, yes,
The female is standing and the male is always sniffing.
yes.
We men are bloody dogs. That's what we do all our lives.
Keep up
And that is the cause of our downfall.
Yes, sir.
You understand? I'm saying it in very plain words, if you know what I'm saying. That this is the problem. We men are dogs and we find excuses to blame the other person. Because ultimately we don't think with our brain, we think with something else. And that's being very candid on camera.
Yes, the blood flow goes not to the north, to the south.
Goes to the south. So when you go south, you go south.
You go, sir.
But this is a fact of life. And the earlier one realizes it, the better, because these things fizzle out after a while. But the person you're married to or your companion for life is something that stays. And with that person, if you create a communication system about talking about everything, whether it's a situation or something that you didn't like about her or she didn't like about you, if you communicate, you will see your relationship becoming stronger as you grow older. And older, you need a companion, you need a friend. You don't need somebody you can always make love to, because that ends, that phase ends. But you need somebody to grow old with and be happy with and die with. That's the phase where you have to think of. But a lot of people don't think of it, including me. That's why I am where I am today. So that's what the fact of life is. With that, I think you have answered most of your questions. We're talking of wisdom. Now the wisdom has come.
We'll continue the next chapter of this discussion. But thank you very much, sir, for this.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
These untold stories.
Thank you.